Mr. Chairman of the Arctic Circle, Ólafur Ragnar Grímsson, President of Iceland, Mr. Gunni T. Jóhannesson, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to be here today to address the Arctic Circle Assembly, assembled annually since 2013, and it is a pleasure to welcome at this year's Arctic Circle Assembly so many delegations from all around the world. A warm welcome to all of you. I'd like to take this opportunity to express my appreciation to the former President, Mr. Ólafur Ragnar Grímsson, founder and chairman of the Arctic Circle, for the initiative at the time and his continued engagement and tireless inspiration. Thank you, Ólafur. Now, I look forward to listening to informative dialogue and exchange of views in different plenary and breakout sessions. The agenda looks very impressive. We all know climate change is a challenge that does not respect state borders, sovereignty of states, or international law. It's a challenge that no country can tackle alone, but requires international effort and cooperation. The Paris Agreement in 2015 was indeed a landmark achievement. Iceland was one of the countries with high ambitions at the Paris Conference, and we aim to take part in a collective delivery with 30 European countries of 40% reduction of greenhouse emissions by 2030. It's not going to be an easy task for us. As has already been mentioned here today, our energy for heating and electricity already comes from fully renewables. But we have an opportunity in using electricity and cleaner fuels for cars and ships. We can reclaim wetlands and plant trees to soak up carbon from the atmosphere. Many Icelandic enterprises are pioneers in green technology, including in geothermal energy and in capturing CO2 emissions and pumping them into basalt rock, where they turn into minerals. Each country must employ their own solutions in this urgent global task. And let me assure you that the Icelandic authorities are determined to implement the Paris Agreement in a very ambitious way. Yes, climate change is already visible in Iceland. Our glaciers are retreating. With no action, the ice in Iceland could largely disappear in 100 years. But the worst is yet to come if we cannot act fast enough. Climate change can profoundly change societies in the High North in various ways: economically, socially, culturally, environmentally, and in terms of security. Not only the Arctic is changing, but the melting may impact the entire climate system of the Earth. Sea ice and glaciers are retreating, and terrestrial and marine ecosystems are being transformed. Sea level is rising, and extreme weather events become more and more frequent. This in turn has impacts on communities and economies. New questions have risen relating to, among other things, natural resource utilization, shipping routes, and environmental protection. Yes, the region is becoming more accessible, but it is not an open highway. As Arctic seas become more open and accessible, there will be the increased risk of pollution incidents due to increased traffic in the Arctic that requires enhanced search and rescue capability. The Arctic Council Search and Rescue Agreement was an important step for ensuring safety in the Arctic, but we need to continue to develop our cooperation. The task is to strike the right balance between challenges and opportunities involved in the development of the Arctic, including how to utilize natural resources for the benefit of the inhabitants of the region without jeopardizing the quality of the environment and its sensitive ecosystem. And striking this balance is a very complex task, but we need to approach it with a can-do attitude. The growing importance of the Arctic calls for greater coordination and cooperation, both on the domestic front and internationally. The Arctic Council remains the most important forum for discussion and decision-making on issues pertaining to the Arctic, and as a member of the Arctic Council and the Arctic coastal state, Iceland has great interest and responsibilities towards the Arctic and developments in the region. Iceland will chair the Arctic Council from 2019 till 2021, following Finland, which currently holds the chairmanship. And we will endeavor to lead this important forum in a cooperative and forward-looking fashion. Preparations are already underway in broad consultations with all relevant stakeholders. Our interests in the Arctic are manifold, and thus comes as no surprise that the governments, in plural, in past and present, of Iceland, have identified the Arctic as a key policy issue, a key policy priority. Based on a policy that was unanimously agreed in the Parliament of Iceland in 2011, we have been moving forward, and the policy places a strong adherence to principles of sustainability and protection of the environment. The policy encompasses 12 wide-ranging principles and stresses the importance of and respect for international law, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea being the prime example. Our interests pertain to protection of the region's vulnerable environment, sustainable economic development, and utilization of the natural resources. Further, we place strong emphasis on security and safety, infrastructure, and of course cooperation with all stakeholders involved, including the indigenous people. It is important that the Arctic continues to be a region of peace, stability, and cooperation, despite tensions elsewhere in the world. The Arctic Council has become and been able to continue its cooperative work on Arctic issues between all the member countries. And it is our responsibility to continue on this path for the benefit of the Arctic and its inhabitants. Now, ladies and gentlemen, globalization has already reached the Arctic region, but with full force propelled by climate change. In the delicate environment of the Arctic, we must give nature the benefit of the doubt in our decision-making. We have a shared responsibility when it comes to the Arctic, charting the road to success and sustainability. It is our task to preserve the Arctic and its many faces the best we can. I wish you a very successful 5th Arctic Circle Assembly. Thank you all.